Hi, this is Patricia with Altenew to share a layout that uses a lot of the crisp dye inks to create my layout as well as some touches of gold. To start the layout, I want to use some of the green crisp dye ink, and I put this on a nonstick mat and then I spray it generously with some water. And then I take a piece of watercolor paper and I go ahead and start smushing this onto that watered down ink. And I smush it until I get the effect that I want, and I let the drips of the ink kind of just run across the page in different areas. I cover the majority of the page. So now I'm going to start using the tulip stamp set here, and I'm using one of the stems to create a repetitive pattern for my background. I like the texture that it adds to the background, and in a way it's creating my own pattern paper. So what I'm doing is I'm using the outline of the stamp and I'm just using one of the layered stamps. And I'll do this to cover the entire background. The photo that I have in mind to use for this is a beautiful photo on Mother's Day with a very good friend of ours. They're such good friends that we consider them family. So the photo has a lot of green in it, and I am using a lot of green on this page, but I think it enhances the photo. Now I'm using some of the sentiments from the tulip stamp set to just sporadically stamp, again creating a little bit of repetition in some, my own pattern paper. And I'm just using the photo to help guide, and you can see here I kind of goofed a little bit. And that happens, especially if you don't, especially when you're using a stamp block like this. It's just going to happen. So that will probably be a spot that I will cover up later. Okay, so now I've trimmed this down. I'm doing an 8.5 by 11, but I trimmed my paper down by 1/4 of an inch on each side. And then I'll adhere this down onto the navy Altenew 8.5 by 11 cardstock. I really want to create a lot of contrast. I'm using a lot of green on my background, and that photo has a lot of green. But I really think adding this rich navy is going to really make it help it pop a little bit better. Okay, so to help it pop a little bit more and add some really pretty gold, I'm going to do a lot of embossing. I'm using the painted butterflies here, and I did 2 of them here in gold, but I also ended up doing a third one, a larger one. And next I'm going to emboss the daisy stamp set here. I'm going to emboss 2 of the flowers and 2 of the leaves. And then I'm going to apply more of the crisp dye inks to color them. Okay, so I'm going to get all of these stamped and covered with the embossing powder and go ahead and get it all melted with the heat gun. Get those nice and shiny. I do the front and back because I tend to be a little impatient, so I'll get a little too close to the paper sometimes. And it just helps the paper to not warp too much. So now I'm going to use some of the Altenew crisp dye inks to also color my images. Now I am not a watercoloring expert. I have done it in the past, but it's not something that I have done a lot. And I know a lot of the girls, especially on the card team, are very proficient at this, and I admire their beautiful work. But so I'm not going to show great detail of that. I feel like they're the experts at it. But what I did is I used my brush and I wet the image and then I applied the ink. And if I want to just drop some of the ink, sometimes it's better to get a nice wet brush with the ink. And then sometimes if I want the color to be a little bit more intense, sometimes I don't dip my brush in the water as often. Watercoloring, if you've done it, is really just a preference, I think, because I don't think you can mess it up. I think that's the beauty of watercoloring, is the imperfections that you get from the water running with the color. So here I used the blush color and I used the peach color to do the flower. Just added just a little bit of shading, not a lot. And then I'm going to use just this one color green to do the leaves and the inside of the flowers. I really want this to complement the green background that I have. So now I'm going to start placing everything, and I'm really excited how the flowers really lined up well with the background of the stems. They just fell into place. I didn't want all of the flowers to be clustered into one area. I like to kind of stretch my creativity and create a little bit more of a visual triangle of clusters. So I have the flowers scattered in a triangle, and I have the butterflies by each one, and I have the two leaves by two of the flowers. And I'm going to create some dimension with these since I have a lot of texture, and I'm not going to really add too much more to this layout. There's not going to be any pattern paper. I think I have enough with the stamping and the inks. So I'm just going to add some dimension as I adhere everything into place. Now I added my ATG gun on the bottom of the butterfly, and then on its wing, I actually added two foam adhesives on the back of him to really make his top part wing really pop up a lot. And I like dimension like that. And it's still relatively simple, not too busy, but it just adds a nice little detail to that. So I'm going to continue to go around and pop dot the butterflies and the flowers. And I'm just really so happy how these fell into place so easily. Now, as I'm placing these, like I placed that leaf on that flower right there that I'm working on, I like it going up because it points towards that photo, and the leaf that's by the photo is pointing down. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to use the daisy stamp set sentiment to create my title, and I'm also going to do the gold embossing for that. And I'm going to place that right in between where those leaves are going to be pointing directly to it. And as you saw a little bit ago, I was showing you that I added some horizontal stitching. I have so much vertical on the layout that I like to break it up with some horizontal directions. So I did the horizontal stitching, and I like the little thread. I usually like to leave my threads hanging, but this one was extra long and I really liked it. So I decided to just keep it in place with some enamel and chipboard pieces. And then I'm going to bring in some more chipboard pieces that complement the color of the layout, and also they're going to be horizontal, breaking up all that vertical direction of the layout. So that is the layout, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching.